Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Megan Ashley Brown. Megan, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing really great. How are you?
I am doing very well. I am very honored to have you here. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are an American actress originally from Orlando. You had fallen in love with theater at a young age when you were cast as the lead in your first performance of James and the Giant Peach. Now, that's amazing. And I got to talk about this because that was one of my favorite cartoons growing up. So, is
Yeah.
that what really sparked your love for acting in general?
Most definitely for sure. Yeah, I mean it was I think I had done a few plays before then, just a part of ensemble, but that was like the first thing where I was like, oh, I have lines and I have work to do and all this stuff. And yeah, it really kind of just started the snowball effect for me, which is crazy to think about because I was like 8 or 9 when I did it. Like I was so young and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. And everybody was like, sure, okay, we'll see about that. But I was like, no, just wait and see. But yeah, it was incredible. I loved it. I watched the movie when I when I started doing James and Giant Peach, and it actually scared the heck out of me. Just like the cartoon of it and everything. I was like, this is so terrifying. Why am I a part of this? But yeah, it was great. It's yeah, something I'll always remember.
And even the animation style to that movie is something, even nowadays, it still has that creepy, almost Coraline type effect
Yes.
to it when you're watching it.
Yes, I've always said like I love everything horror. And I don't get scared very easily, but Tim Burton's claymation always scares the heck out of me. Like to this day, like Nightmare Before Christmas scares me. I don't recall if he did Coraline or not, but Coraline scares me. Like all of those, I'm like, oh, they're just terrifying.
I'm pretty sure he was a producer on Coraline. I know he had something to do with that film. Like his fingerprints are definitely on that film.
Yeah, it gives Tim Burton vibes, so that makes sense.
Right. And you were talking about, starting off in theater and from there you kind of moved to the film and commercial side of entertainment. And for a lot of people, I always feel like, and this is just for me, being in a theater is like putting on a live performance as a band. You're out there and it's one take, you don't have a cut, nothing like that. And then when you're doing film and commercials, it's kind of like you're recording an album. You have the chance to kind of refine what you're doing and make sure that it's tuned into the absolute best you can if you got to do a retake. So, what are the differences between film and theater for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful that I started in theater because I think that helped me so much when it comes to film. Like I know a lot of people, sometimes will start in film and then they'll transition to theater. But I'm very grateful for how it worked out with me doing theater first. Just because like yes, I feel like a lot of people are like, as a film and television actor, like you can do 100 takes and it's like if it's a big enough budget project, sure, but majority of the time, if you do 100 takes, you will get fired. Like you cannot do that all day. They don't have the money, they don't have the time and all these sort of things. So trying to, really nail it, I think in the first like take or two is always the goal. And I think theater training helps with that so much. Yeah, I went to a performing arts school in Orlando, Florida, which is where I graduated high school from. And just the process of like learning how to like memorize things and really prepare myself so that if anything happens on stage, like I can't go back and start over. I have to just keep going. Really, really helped. But there's also a lot of differences with I think one of the biggest things I had to learn was when I did theater, it's always, much bigger tends to be you have to project and you have to talk to the back of the audience. And when I started doing film and television, I think my first acting coach was like, you need to be quieter. Like, this is not a scene where you need to be screaming and you're yelling. And I was like, but how will people hear me? And she's like, you'll wear a mic pack. You'll be fine. They're
Right.
gonna hear you. Trust me. Like, you can whisper and they will hear you. So I think that was something that definitely took a little adjusting, at least for me.
Sure, and I'm sure that's an adjustment for everybody. And there's little things like that, and that's why I love to ask that question because I like to hear the differences and how it is for you in
Yeah.
comparison to other people. And that's a really great analogy. I've never thought of it like that. How with theater you have to project. You
Yeah.
have to have that big projection voice, and in film, like you said, those mic operators are going to be pretty upset if you're yelling into the mic the whole time.
I know it is always so different too because I've had the experiences on set of where they're like, you could you could be a little bit like more quiet in the scene, like more of like a hush tone. But then there's also times when you're filming outside and there's airplanes flying over you and it's like a dramatic scene, but they're like, but we do need you to be louder somehow. So I think that like not only did theater help me with that, but like vocal lessons and things, like being able to control your voice and everything is just so helpful.
Okay. Um, well, I mean, and then you started winning awards. You started getting all these awards in film festivals. So the voice must have been right there somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when you decided to move to LA. But also, you are an accomplished ballroom dancer. And that's another talent all on its own as well. The ability to be able to move with the music. I have two daughters that are in dance that do ballet, and so I see the hard work and dedication it takes to be a dancer. Um, but you also like playing golf, baking, paddleboarding, and spending time with family and friends. So you are human as well.
Yeah.
I do like to see that. So I know a lot of you guys will know her from The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, the third installment in the Conjuring franchise. But she's also been in The Dropout, Stargirl, Animal Kingdom, and plenty more to come. So The Conjuring, especially in the horror world, is a huge franchise that people absolutely adore. So what's it feel like for you to know that you are a part of this franchise forever?
It is such an honor, truly. Like I am so blessed and I am so grateful and it's such an accomplishment. It might be one of my favorite like accomplishments that I ever do in my career, even though I'm only in my early 20s. Um, because I have always been such a huge fan of the Conjuring universe. Like, I remember seeing the first one. I remember not being old enough to see the second one and having to sneak into the theater because it was R-rated to see it. And yeah, so being able to be a part of the third one is just really such a dream come true. And I am so grateful that people welcomed me and my co-star Mitchell Hogue like into the universe with such like loving open arms and everybody seemed to be, really happy with the bits and pieces that we were able to share about Ed and Lorraine with them. And so yeah, I'm so overwhelmed with joy and gratitude for it.
And it's amazing because, like I said, it's a lot of people for a franchise that's gone as long as it has. The consistency of it is amazing. If you're counting every movie in the Conjuring franchise, whether it's the Conjuring movies, the Annabelle movies, the Nun movies, La Llorona, all these movies, and it's still such a consistent horror franchise. So
Mhm.
I do want to remind everybody, she said that might be her greatest accomplishment. She's got a lot of time left to go. And the way to stay up to date on her career is by following her on social media. And I have all those links down in the description. So please make sure you're following her on social media so you can see all the things that she has coming up in the future. So I know NDAs exist, and sometimes it's really hard to talk about things, but do you have anything coming up the pipeline that you're allowed to talk about at this moment?
Honestly, right now, I'm just in a state of being an auditioner. It's so funny. Yeah, a lot of people time are like, "You're an actor," and I'm like, "Yes, but right now I am an auditioner because that is primarily what my job is right now is auditioning for things." I think a lot of people in this industry have had a crazy last few years with like not only COVID, but the writer strike and the actor strike last year, and things are finally just now getting to a point where it's like, okay, we're auditioning again, and like I'm just now finding, like, classes that are starting to be in person again and having, like, a few auditions that are in person. So yeah, right now I'm very much just in a state of doing that, and I love it. I think I sometimes forget because as an actor, like, you want to just be booking things and be working on projects so much, like, rightfully so, that I think sometimes I forget, like, how much I enjoy the process of auditioning and, like, getting sides and getting to be creative with them and do all this beforehand work and whatnot. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
In auditioning itself is its own art form because you're creating a character that you've been given a page about, and you have to bring this character to life and create this character. So
Yeah.
um like I said, the auditioning process leads to roles. So guys, make sure you're following her on social media so you can stay up to date on the roles that she has coming up. Now, in order for you to be in such a top tier horror franchise like The Conjuring, uh, horror had to start for you somewhere, Megan Ashley. So now I would like to go back to the past and talk
Yes.
about what it was that got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Megan, your first horror movie was.
Jeepers Creepers.
Now
Yeah.
I have to put this disclaimer out there. I do not own this movie, so I don't support this movie because of all the things that happened. But I'd never tell anybody. I want this to be genuine. I want this to be real. So that's why I didn't want to say anything. I wanted to talk about this movie, but a lot of people will know that I don't support this film, but I support the fact that this was your first horror movie and I wanted this to be real and genuine. But I
Mm.
can't support Victor Salva and the things that he did as a human being. So, which is very upsetting because the movie is awesome. It's a fantastic movie. It is very, very scary. And it's a movie that I wish I could wax the car of because there's so many great performances and the people in it that are so damn amazing. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
I don't remember exactly. I know I was in elementary school, so I had to have been maybe around like 9 or 10.
What an age to watch a movie like this.
Yeah.
Um, because this movie, like I said, I still have people to this day that talk about how it's their favorite horror movie, how it affected them so much, and the ability to separate the art from the artist. And I like Justin Long is one of my favorites. Like he's so good, and
Yeah.
this movie is so goddamn scary. And I couldn't imagine watching this in elementary school. But again, I'm geriatric, so
Yeah.
like I was already there when this movie came out. But do you remember who you were with when you watched it for the first time?
Yes, I was with my dad, and funny enough, it wasn't like an intentional thing. Like we weren't like, "Oh, let's sit down and pick a scary movie and watch it." Like I think it was just around Halloween time and it was just airing on TV and my dad just had some channel on and I just sat down and I was like, "Whatever's on, I'm just going to watch it." And so I did, and I remember towards the very end of the movie, my mom coming in and just like being so pissed at my dad, like, why would you let her watch that? Like, she's too young for scary movies. She's gonna have nightmares, and like, it's gonna be your problem when she wakes up in the middle of the night. And like this whole, parent thing, which I'm sure I inevitably did wake up in the middle of the night and like wedge myself between my parents and in their bed. But yeah, that was so I watched it with my dad. I don't even think he fully like even was aware that like I was watching this movie that was on. He's just like, she's gonna do what she's gonna do. It's fine.
And I've always been I'm a parent. I have three kids myself, everywhere from 15 down to 4. And I've always said that if it's something your kids want to do, let them watch it, but educate them. Let them know the difference between fantasy and reality. And my daughter's been with me on set. She was there when I got my face ripped off in The Bride of the Killer Pinata. So she got to understand that these things are fake. This is daddy playing. This is makeup. This is fun. So when you get to do these type of things, then educate your children about it. I feel like it makes children more grounded in reality because they understand the differences between what's real and what's not. So this movie, however, is extremely hard to explain to a child, especially when you're watching it on TV for the first time. So we know you were with your dad when you were watching it, which kudos to you, Daddy Brown. But do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
It was definitely the eyeball scene. Yeah, the eyeball scene, I didn't entirely fully understand what was going on or why it was happening necessarily. But I think that's like what did me in and actually like really genuinely scared me from the movie. Like there was obviously a lot of other stuff from it that was like scary, but I think that's probably what it was like. I'm gonna get nightmares now.
And it's one of those things where they kind of tip you off throughout the whole movie with the Jeepers Creepers song. Where'd you get those peepers? But the
Mhm.
first time you watch it, I don't think it really sets in what's happening, and then you finally see that moment, and you're
Yeah.
just like, "Damn!
Yeah.
If Justin Long's in a horror movie, he's gonna die." So, uh, and this movie now it is a part of a whole franchise. This movie, and from what I'm hearing, we're going to be getting another installment in the next couple of years. But have you seen the other Jeepers Creepers movies? And if so,
I
which one is your favorite?
I actually haven't. I've only seen the original. I should go back and watch the other ones just because I have seen the original. But no, I haven't. And I've, funny enough, have been like fascinated kind of like with just the story of it because I think parts of it filmed in Florida, not far from like where I grew up. Which I think was crazy. And then also I believe I saw like somewhere that like it was like a film that they had shot in like 28 days, which is like wild.
Insane.
But yeah, no, I haven't seen the other ones. I need to I definitely need to especially if they're making a new one soon.
You should definitely watch part two. But
Yeah.
you could stop there. Um,
Fair enough.
so obviously in Hollywood, remakes, requels, sequels, that's kind of all the rage. It's something that, is always going to happen. And it's getting more and more steam with like Halloween, Scream, getting those treatments. But would you like to see them attempt a full on reboot of Jeepers Creepers now?
Honestly, this is gonna sound so annoying as an actor, but my immediate was like, yeah, if I can be in it, that would be cool.
Right,
Um,
yes.
like, yeah, but only if I'm in it. If I'm not in it, then no.
No,
Um,
absolutely not.
um, Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want maybe a full reboot, but I sometimes love like I think there's a new Strangers movie coming out that's like a prequel. And I'm always a sucker for like prequel movies when it comes to like horror franchises. So I think that would be something that like I would be interested in was if they did like a prequel to it.
You should definitely watch part two.
Okay. Is part two a prequel?
It's either part two or part three. I'm pretty sure part two goes back in time, or no, part two goes ahead in time, and then part three goes back. So maybe it's part three you should check
Gotcha.
out. But because the creeper feeds, I think it's every 25 or 27 years, so it
Yeah.
does have the time jumps in there of when the creature feeds.
Mhm.
And which again is such a scary villain, and you get a lot more into the creeper as the franchise goes, and you see more of like his tools and what he has at his disposal. And um it's really unfortunate what Victor Salva is as a human being and the things he did to those kids, because it really, it takes away from the joy you get when you do watch these films. I had seen all the Jeepers Creepers films before I had ever found out about Victor Salva and who he was and what he did. And so I was a fan, and it was just like a gut punch to hear the guy that created this was literally the monster that he had created in these films and was preying on little boys. And it's just it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying for anybody out there watching, if you like Jeepers Creepers and you support that movie, there's nothing wrong with that. Please understand that I'm not saying, oh, you're a bad person. Never. I would never, ever do that. I have some of my best friends that get on my ass all the time about Jeepers Creepers, and they love it. And I hope you do. If there's art being made, I hope you love it. It's just not for me. That's all I'm saying. Um, and this first film, especially the darkness of it. So I don't know if you'll have a good answer for this question because it's such a dark film. But did you have a favorite scene from the original Jeepers Creepers?
Honestly, um, I'm not too entirely sure. Like I don't think there was ever really necessarily a scene that stuck out that was like, oh, I really like liked that scene and like enjoyed that scene. And yeah, maybe part of it is because of how dark it is. Um, I do remember liking um or not necessarily liking, but thinking it was kind of like a cool thing is there's one part of it that is like filmed on like a huge long stretch of road in Florida, and I've been up and down that road like
Oh,
several times before. And so that was just kind of one of those things that like maybe that would be my favorite just because it's like, wow, this is so cool. Like I grew up here, this movie was shot like right in this moment, and like I can look at it on film and then look at it in person and that sort of thing. So yeah, maybe that.
see, and that's an amazing thing, because when you can make it close to home and you have that feeling of that every time you watch it, you get that feeling of home. You watch it and you see home, especially because you are very far away from home now.
Yes, I am.
I know LA is home, but home is, we
Is
all
where my
know what I mean.
yeah.
Right. Um, so I've had an amazing time talking about Jeepers Creepers and what that movie means to you being your first horror movie. But I do want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite scary movie, Megan Ashley?
Oh,
What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
okay. My favorite of all time is The Shining. I'm a huge Jack Nicholson fan. I just absolutely love that movie. But in more recent years, a few years ago, maybe it was like tw between like 2010 and 2014, I want to say maybe. There was a movie that came out, like a horror movie that came out called Lights Out, and I really enjoyed that. Like I to this day like will watch it like every like year or so around Halloween time. Like I just think it was a really, really well done horror film. So yeah, that's definitely on my list as well.
Have you ever seen the short film that was inspired off of?
I have not.
You got to check it out. I'm telling you, like, 'cause I love Lights Out. I think that the monster in it, I love how turning the light off and it's there, and then you turn the light on and it's
Yeah.
gone. Like, I love those type of moments. And what I
Yeah.
love about Lights Out is, yeah, there's jump scares throughout it, but
Mm.
it's not reliant on jump scares to scare you. The
Yeah.
cinematography is what is so scary to you, and the relationship of this brother and sister, and then
Yeah.
finding out who this person is that is in the shadows and why they're there and who they were attached to is such a scary. Who are you supposed to? I'm not going to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it. Go see Lights Out if
Right.
you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But who else are you supposed to trust more than this person? And this is
Yeah.
the
It's
person that's brought this monster into your life. And I'm glad you said that. This is the first time I think ever in the history of Sledgehammer Horror I've had the pleasure of talking about this movie that I love so much.
Yeah,
I'm
it's really great. I also love it as a I think one of my complaints about horror movies like frequently when I watch them is that I think pacing can be messed up so easily. Very rarely do I feel like I watch something and I'm like, oh, the pacing was like great. I was in it the whole time. I was scared. And I think Lights Out is like just such a great example of like how pacing in a horror movie should be done. And also like I didn't think that they stuck to a lot of like classic horror rules of like, oh, I know who's gonna die first in this because this is normally the character that dies first.
yeah,
Totally not how it happened, not expected at all. And I was like, wow, this is great. Also one of the first movies I had watched in a while where I was like, I'm scared. Like every time I left a room, I was so quick to turn on lights in my house. I was like, I
yeah.
will sleep with the lights on for a week.
And one of the scenes I love in the movie is the neon light that's flashing.
Hmm.
Like that
Crazy.
whole scene is so damn, and it's so. This is one of the exceptions, not the rules, because I'd say probably a good 73% of the time, when you take a short film and you make it into a feature, it doesn't work as well. And we've seen it a couple times this year with Baghead, um, Night Swim, movies that kind of fell a little flat but were well acted and the ideas were great. And you can tell that, and you watch the shorts and you're like, wow, I can see why they wanted to adapt these into a feature. And you
Yeah.
feel for the film for not succeeding the way it should have. But Lights Out, I look at like Saw. Saw started out as a short film. And look at
Mhm.
what that did. And Lights Out, we're supposed to be getting a sequel to that. We've been hearing that for years. Hopefully it'll finally happen. But
Yeah.
I love what Lights Out was able to do in a time where the supernatural thing was kind of hitting its end, because horror always goes in cycles. Right now, we're kind of back in the slasher craze. Right now, the Universal monster craze with Lisa
Yeah.
Frankenstein and Abigail. But when the supernatural was kind of dying out, here comes Lights Out, and it was right back up again because of how great the movie was. So, um, Megan Ashley, I do want to thank you so much for coming on and hanging out
Yeah.
with me for a little bit. It's been so amazing to get to know you, and I'm so happy for you, and I'm so excited for the things you have coming up in the future. And I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but we are at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll, and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, please make sure you're following Megan Ashley on all her social media links. Those are down in the description. So you're going to want to keep up on all the amazing things she's going to have coming up for us in the future, whether it's horror or not. If she's in it, I'm in. So, Megan, please don't go anywhere. I have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.